One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet whom millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
Is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
What's up, everybody, on a great sunny down here in South Florida Friday afternoon. Got some breaking news for you before I even get into the entire show today. Breaking news: Trump has announced a rally in Virginia. The rally is going to take place, I believe, in Virginia Beach. Haven't gotten all the details yet, but he's going to do the Virginia rally. He's put Virginia in play, and he's going after Virginia hard. He's doing that rally the day after the debate. So it's going to be a busy couple of weeks for me here. I'd love for you to join me. Don't forget tomorrow. I forget what time. I'd have to look it up here, but I believe it's like 7 o'clock. We're going to be doing the Philadelphia rally. Let me look that up so I don't give you the wrong information, because I should have had that popped up for me. Let's see what time tomorrow's Philadelphia. I'm looking here. Philadelphia is at 6:30. I'm going live. Philadelphia tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. So you guys need to join me because, drum roll, another bit of breaking news. I'm going to be giving away yet another trip. Yep, going to fly somebody else somewhere. It's probably going to be Fort Lauderdale again because it's so nice down here, and I got hotels that want to work with me. So, we'll probably do that. In case you guys don't remember or missed it, our last winner is Lisa and Mark from Calabash, North Carolina, who won a free trip down here to Fort Lauderdale. They were supposed to go to the rally in West Palm Beach, but the weather down here was absolutely wretched. It was horrible. So they couldn't come. But they are coming next weekend. They're coming the week of the debate, the presidential debate. So we got the presidential. Hold on, let me just back up. Tomorrow we have the Philadelphia rally. Then on the 27th we've got the big presidential debate. Then on the 28th we have now the Virginia rally. So boom. So Settle in, make sure you got your notifications on, hit that button so you get it anytime I go live. Actually, you should just hit the notification button anytime anyway, so you know when I get my videos. My videos go up. YouTube has basically been coming down hard on me. I'm not stopping. I'm not giving in. All it costs is this.
Come on, show some love and click that like button.
Yeah, just go ahead and click the like button. Let people know. I need your help to get the word out. I'm going to keep pushing. I noticed some other guys were going through the same thing. They're going to keep pushing. We know it's only going to get worse. So that being said, what's the other announcement? The other announcement, as of today, I do have a new partner, sponsor, whatever you want to call it. Lear Capital is now a sponsor of Fanfare with Barry Cunningham. So we're going to be talking about some gold. We're going to do an interview with the CEO of Lear Capital in a couple days. Let that come out tonight. We're sponsored by Lear Capital. You'll see some information about them. All right. Housekeeping out the way. Hope everybody's fine, safe, ready to go. Hope you guys, wherever you are ready for a great weekend. Let's get into today's live show. There's going to be another video later, but it's not going to be live. But this one is all the way live. I don't know if you guys saw it, but Trump is absolutely destroying Dementia Joe in the money department. He's absolutely killing him in the money department. Billionaires. The billionaires have decided to coalesce behind Donald Trump. That is huge. That is huge news. Let me show you a couple things here. And it just blew me away when I saw this stuff. But when we start over here, it's almost like the libs are beginning to cry about this. They're like, oh no, tell me that's not the case. It's the case. It's the case, people. So let me see what happened here. Where the heck? Oh, man. Sorry about this. This is one of the problems with live TV, is that the camera sometimes messes up, and I just got to do this, and there I am. So I can now go ahead and put this over. This today, just a few hours ago, was on the AP, and they're all freaking out. They're all freaking out. Boom. Trump dwarfs Biden in latest fundraising numbers in a show of political force after felony convictions. Did y'all not think that was going to happen? Did you think they were just going to convict him on 34 BS counts and that all the people who were for him were going to wither away? And now people who weren't for him are like, yeah, I think we need to get behind him. I'm not going to read these articles. I just like the headlines on these things. This one here is from our favorite, the New York Times. Trump has rapidly eroded Biden's edge in 2024 cash battle. Yep, he has done that. This one here, I love, Trump raised so much last month, he erased Biden's cash advantage. There was a couple interesting things in this article that I do want to point out, is that Biden was counting on a cash advantage, and Trump wiped him out. Completely wiped him out. And one of the problems that Biden is having, Dementia Joe and his people, one of the problems that they're having is that Biden has been spending. He's been out there just spending like a drunken sailor trying to get commercials out there. Why? Because he can't interpersonally relate with people. He's not out there pressing palms and standing on stages. I mean, the one event I saw was like in a high school gym, and it was like maybe the janitor and his friends. There was nobody there. He can't bring a crowd. Nobody wants to see him. He goes to Julia Roberts and George Clooney, and they bring in, a bunch of money, but it's all elites. It's not the people. And they're wondering why he's so detached, because number one, he's not of the people, and number two, they have to hide him because he can't get on stage and actually talk. I don't know what we're going to see at the debate. I mean, it's kind of freaky. And one of the things I do know from my advertising days is that he's spending so much money because, or not because, but it also becomes a money laundering scheme as far as I'm concerned. I'm not going to defame somebody, but if you're dropping 20 mil here to MSNBC and 20 mil here to CNN and another 15 mil to NBC, and you're spreading this big big cash around, what do you think those networks are going to do? They're going to talk good about you. Why? Because you got to keep bringing in the money. And so he's burning through this cash. I mean, Trump's not, he's just holding. It's almost like he's doing a rope-a-dope, not even having to spend any money. Dementia Joe is making his campaign videos. That's why KJP, Miss Karine Jean-Pierre, was freaking out and talking to everybody about having, what do they call them? Cheap fake videos? Because they're killing him. They're basically putting out actual videos of what Dementia Joe does, and people are seeing it. Doesn't cost you a dime. Because once you put it out there on True Social, on Twitter, wherever, boom, it just goes. It's like wildfire. Now they're trying to say, how do we stop this shit? You can't. You can't stop. You can't make people unsee what they've seen. You can't make people unhear what they've heard. This isn't George Orwell's 1984 as much as you want it to be. Thank God for Elon Musk, because the gates are off and you can't put that horse back in the barn. Yeah, some of us on this platform may have a problem, and I understand Facebook is just forget about it. Facebook is just boom, delete, 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 ban, ban, ban. CBS put up a video of him wandering around during when they were in France. They put a stamp on the video saying digitally altered content. And none of it was digitally altered. Then they put up a video that wasn't digitally altered, and it was the same video. And finally they just took it down and issued a statement going, yeah, we don't know what we're doing. We can't help ourselves at this point. So in other words, they're a campaign in a circular file at this point. They don't know what they're doing. And so let's see another one here. This is in Forbes. Single biggest Trump campaign donation revealed. Timothy Mellon donates $50 million. One guy dropped $50 million to Trump. And then we got one more here. Biden's team raises $85 million in May. Nearly half of what Trump did, $141 million in his haul. And it's freaking them out. I mean, it's absolutely freaking them out because there's nothing they can do about it at this point. Check this out. Watch this.
If you're sitting in Biden's headquarters, you do not like these numbers, because what they do show is that Donald Trump is going to have enough money to run this campaign in a very full way. You don't like that your numbers are so much smaller than his in that month of May, and you're probably redoubling your efforts to raise money to make sure that doesn't happen. If you just look at Trump and the RNC, they raised $106 million together in May. We look at Biden and the DNC, that number $60 million. The difference there is basically 76% more for Trump and the RNC than Biden and the DNC. That's not sustainable for the Democrats if that were to continue month after month.
It's not sustainable for the Democrats if this were to continue month after month. Newsflash, it's going to continue. The billionaires and millionaires are lining up behind Trump. And I just want to get one thing out the way right now. I am sick and tired of people like Bernie Sanders and AOC and the squad and everybody else vilifying millionaires and billionaires. There is nothing wrong with accumulating wealth. People try to say the thing in the Bible that the love of money, love of money is the root of all evil. The love of money. They get it all mixed up when they try to vilify people who have wealth. I don't love money. I enjoy money. I don't love money. But they don't care. They try to just do everything they can to vilify people who have wealth, not understanding that the people with wealth allow the rest of the people in this country to enjoy other things. When they're sending on, and to tell you the truth, you can actually see it yourself. When they're sending money over to these other countries, where do you think they're getting it from? If 35 to 40% of the country doesn't pay any taxes, zero, how can you be for funding these wars, yet be against billionaires and millionaires? Doesn't make any sense. Oh, I know why. Because you want to take more of their money. That's right. Dementia Joe said, I want to raise taxes to 44%. And then I want to raise taxes to 25% of the money that you just haven't even received yet. So when you told people you were going to take 44% effectively, depending on where they live, 50, 55, 60% of their income, which candidate did you think they were going to get behind? I know which one I would get behind if I had $1 billion in the bank. It's the one who's not going to take my money. And for those of you libs in here are talking about fair share, look, I don't like to swear, but that whole fair share thing is complete bullcrap. You know why? Because they never define it. You want to shut a lib up? You want to make them run for cover? Say, okay, I'll go with your fair share. What is it? Define to me fair share. So I know when I hit it, I paid my fair share. So can you tell me what my fair share is? Never going to happen. They're never going to be able to tell you that number because that number doesn't exist. That number to them just means I can come back and get more from you. And so, of course, the billionaires are getting behind Trump. And I don't blame them one iota. If there's anybody watching who has a problem with people who make millions and billions and billions, that's on you. I understand that there's people out there that are physically affirmed to have issues in that regard, but you can't be upset because people make money. I also find it funny that libnuts also always complain about millionaires and billionaires, except for the ones in their own party. Biden gets hundreds of millions of dollars, never worked a day in his life. Never hear anybody complain about that. Nancy Pelosi, worth 200, 300 million. Never hear him complain about that. Bernie Sanders, who was the biggest one, millions and billionaires. He no longer can say that because now he's a millionaire. Doesn't mean anything. Don't talk about it anymore. AOC, aren't you supposedly worth 20 million? God knows how you got that. Don't talk about that. Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, Big Money Fannie Willis. All these people love money. Absolutely. LeBron James. Big money. What is it about the libs that don't like red money? If you're a Democrat and you make gazillions, you're all good. Taylor Swift, you got jets out to yin yang, you're flying around the world. Go for it, girl. I'm happy you're making millions. I'm happy that you can get 15, 2, 3, 20 grand for a ticket for your concert. That's what you earned. It's yours. But if I do that, or if you, or if some of these billionaires get behind Trump, oh no, those guys are bad. Well, Taylor Swift's worth nearly $1 billion. She's got like $850 million. Ain't nobody complaining about Taylor Swift's money. Why is that okay? Oh, because she's giving it to you guys. She's on the right team. Where I come from, that's called being a hypocrite. That's just complete hypocritical hate speech. Hate speech against people who have been successful. The same way Mark Cuban is successful. He got roasted the other day. Mark Cuban just got completely roasted. He was talking about climate change and everything else. Meanwhile, the guy's got a fleet of jets. John Kerry, he married into it. He married, his wife is the Heinz heiress. She's got gazillions of dollars. He complains about the climate. Flies all around the world. Private jets. It's insane. And so I'm glad what happened yesterday. So I'm going to introduce this piece. It's an interview that Trump did with the guys from the All In podcast. If you're not familiar with the guys in the All In podcast, it's basically 3 billionaires and a guy who's on his way to $1 billion. You got, let's see, David Sachs, billionaire. David Friedberg, billionaire. Jason Calacanis, he's only worth about $100 million. He's still got some work to go. He's only got $100 million. or so. And then the last guy, who I can't even pronounce his name, so I'm not going to embarrass myself or insult him, but Shamath, who's one of these four guys who made billions. He's worth about 1.2. These four guys decided, they got together. I guess Shamath went to a dinner with Trump, went to his house, had dinner at Mar-a-Lago, and made his decision, and decided at that point he was going to get behind Trump and have the other guys get behind Trump. So let's listen a little bit to what he said about the dinner meeting he had with Trump before they did the podcast yesterday.
I'll give you two observations. The first is that I think that there is a huge gap between how the media tries to portray Donald Trump and what he's like when you meet him in person. And that gap is really wide. And so I would say specifically to Democrats and independents, you really do need to sit in the room and feel what it's like. David is right. He is charismatic. He's intellectually sharp, and he's funny. And when you put that together, he can engage an audience for a long time and be totally extemporaneous. The other thing I would say that he is very polite, and he's kind in a way that was disarming and was not what I expected.
Why didn't you expect that? Well, the reason he didn't expect that, he didn't expect Donald Trump to be charming and relatable, is because of the media. I hear this over and over from so many people. Is like when they get in front of this guy and go, yeah, man, this guy's pretty cool. He's not what you've told me. He's not what you've told me over and over and over for the last 8 years. For 8 years, they've tried to drum it in people's heads that this guy's a racist, he's a con man, he's every name in the book, until people get a chance to meet Donald Trump. And then when they meet him, they're like, wow, this is a regular guy. This is someone I could relate to.
And so I felt that I had misjudged him many years in the past. And so I was very glad that I had an opportunity to sit beside him and to actually interact with him one-on-one. It was really, really engaging.
You're looking at this guy and you can see that he's heartfelt. He's trying to tell these other billionaires that he's talking to, David Sachs and Friedberg, and then of course Jason Calacanis, that I was stunned, man. I was shocked at what I saw. This is much different than everything I expected. I give him kudos for even taking the invite and going to Mar-a-Lago, because that probably took a culture shock as well. But now he's trying to relate to his buddies. Hey, listen, I just had dinner at this guy's house, this monstrous estate in Palm Beach, Florida. And I know I'm around a lot of rich guys because I'm a tech billionaire and I've been around a lot of rich people. But then there's another level of rich. There's a level of rich where it's like, oh my God, this guy has got all kinds of money, but he's just down to earth. He's just a guy. You see it at every rally. You see it when he gets on stage. I think people think he's acting, but he's not. That's just what Donald Trump is all about. When they heard the Access Hollywood tape, it was a locker room talk. The guy's a billionaire. He's got women throwing themselves at him. Does it make it right? No. But for some of you don't realize, guys talk like that. They talk like that a lot.
And so that's more about the style. And then about the substance, what I would say is it was not just a pro-America agenda, but it's very clear that he was pro-innovation. So he was really supportive of AI in the details that he talked about. He was very supportive of crypto in those details. And
of course he is. And that is going to be huge. That's huge with a lot of people on the left. They don't want to basically say that in public. But the fact that Donald Trump is embracing crypto, as you know, I've been doing videos for a while. I do have some people that help me here and there. And I've got this one guy who's over basically in Brussels who helps me out with doing something. And he only accepts crypto as payment. So think about that. People are able to do business around the world, shield their income, shield their finances, and they can deal in crypto. And now you've got a U.S. president who's saying, yeah, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with you guys doing peer-to-peer transactions. You won't hear that in the Democrats. You know what the Democrats want to do? They want to basically control your currency. They want to do digital currency controlled by the government so that they can see and monitor every single transaction that you do. Can you imagine a billionaire? Can you imagine yourself where think about this, where every single transaction you do, grocery store, Amazon, gifts, every single transaction you do, Dementia Joe and his cohorts want to see it. They'll be able to look in and see how much you spent, where you spent it, when you spent it, and then they can control what you can spend. Sound far-fetched? They're telling us that videos that we see with our eyes are cheap fakes. Nothing is far-fetched with these people. Imagine going to the grocery store, going to a restaurant and go, hey, Barry, you're looking a little chub. I think you've had enough to eat for today. I want you to go on a diet. We're not going to allow you to buy this or that. Oh, you're getting ready to buy a new car? Nah. We demand that you buy an EV. We're not going to release your funds and allow you to buy what you want to buy unless you buy an EV. Oh, you're looking to travel and go see your daughter and grandkids. Sorry, you've used up your carbon footprint for the month. You flew here or there, and that's all the miles we can allow you to buy right now. Sound far-fetched? They're telling you what you're seeing with your ears and hearing with your hearing. They're telling you what you're seeing with your eyes and hearing with your ears isn't real. And you're telling me it's far-fetched? Nope, not at all. Not far-fetched.
And he's very much low regulation, low taxation. And so
low regulation, low taxation. That is the antithesis of everything that the libnuts stand for. They want to regulate everything. And of course, they want to tax you up to here. So this is a pretty simple, probably it was a very easy sell, if it even was a sell, when this guy went to go sit with Trump and go, wait a minute, I got $1 billion and I don't want to give up 40 or 50% of it. Doesn't mean I'm a bad guy. I'm still going to invest it. I'm going to invest it in different businesses and real estate and everything else. But you're telling me I can't? I better go have dinner with this guy.
When you put that together, it does stand very much in contrast with what the alternative is.
Yeah, it does.
And so I think that both of those things are a reason why, even if you aren't willing to vote for him, I would encourage everybody to experience what it's like to hear him.
Freeberg, your thoughts on all this?
I didn't go to this. I didn't go to the event. I don't know.
No, I know. Just big picture.
I'm
Our
wondering why
bestie's
Chamath
hosting this.
I want to know why Chamath didn't wear a tie. Everyone else is wearing a tie. You didn't want the tie?
Chamath doesn't need a tie. He's a baller.
All right.
Do you want to say what Trump said to you when he met Natalie?
So it's us talking, and he says, you guys are a really beautiful couple.
Uh-oh.
And I said, well, thank you. And then he turns to me and he goes, well, you must be really rich. He says this thing. And I started laughing out loud. Nat thought he was hilarious. So
because of the disparity in the looks between you and Nat is what he was
Exactly.
sort of implying.
You guys sat next to him at dinner.
Yeah.
And was that like an hour just private conversation between the three of you?
This is the other thing that he does. He actually sits there and he says, you know, folks, I'm happy to continue to talk about whatever you want me to. You feel free to ask me questions, or feel free to just go around the room and just tell me what you think. And what would happen is people would say different things, and then he would start asking questions of other people, and the thing becomes almost like this roundtable discussion of topics from, we talked about Iran, we talked about foreign policy, we talked about
Deficit
Sounds a
and
lot
debt?
like
No.
the Clintons.
Crypto regulation.
Have you heard, I let that play because I wanted you to listen to that. Have you heard anybody say that Dementia Joe can have that conversation off the cuff, just talking to people. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And be genuine. He can't even do it with world leaders while he's standing there. And so now you've got this group of people who are at his house, who are there and basically quite rich, quite wealthy, and he's able to talk to them and say, so tell me what you want to see here. Tell me what you'd like to see happen with the economy in our deals with Iran and how to make sure that we have a safe world. Because trust me, probably the biggest or second biggest thing that billionaires want beyond, making more money. Number two is I want to have my money be safe. And so right now, both of those things are in peril with Dementia Joe. You don't know what's going to be happening in the markets and how you're going to make money because of what he's doing with regulation and taxation. And then number two, we got subs firing, nuclear subs firing test missiles off the coast of Florida. So when you've got all this happening, those are the top two things that billionaires really care about. Is my money means nothing if I have to hit the mattresses. If I wake up one day and the banks are closed and all of our infrastructure is doomed, it doesn't really matter how much I have, unless I got some gold, which I'm going to tell you about. But other than that, what do I do? At this point, my entire life work is at the behest of this octogenarian who can't even walk across grass. And you're telling me that's a contrast that you're not willing to look at? The only people who could be thinking about voting for Dementia Joe are people who, A, are extremely wealthy and really at this point don't care. Guys like Bill Gates. I mean, he's got everything he wants. I'm sure, same thing with his wife who says she's going to get behind him. Of course you do. You don't need anything. You don't care if you get wiped out right now because you probably got money in a bunker someplace. But cash won't mean anything. It's got to be gold. It's got to be silver. It's got to be something tangible that you can barter with. Your plane's not going to take off. Shit's going to hit the fan. What are you going to be able to do? Everything that you're hoping that you want to do ain't going to be available to you if Dementia Joe gets 4 more years.
Everything.
What did he say about deficit?
Well.
What did he say about deficit and debt?
Well, he's very much he's very much on your side of we have to really figure out how to get spending in order and get the deficit under control.
If you've watched my videos, you know that I've often referred to my dad came from Jamaica. He was an immigrant. He came the right way. And then he worked and busted his hump here in America to build a business. What you may not know is that he was so proud of America, he joined the Army. He even talked my brother into going to West Point. I didn't go that route myself. Didn't want to join the Army. But I always listened to him. One of the things he used to say is that America did so much for him that he wanted to protect it and protect the American way of life. And of course, he wanted to protect what he built. He worried specifically about times like we're living in today. So one of the lessons he told me was to protect yourself, son, and buy some gold. But I was too strong-headed, wanted to do my own thing, and I didn't listen. But as I grew older, I realized everything he said was right. So I bought gold to make sure my family was protected. Right now, I think all of us can see that America is in trouble. I'm sure, like me, you hope that Trump gets elected in November. However, you have to make sure you protect yourself now just in case he doesn't. You definitely don't want to get caught flat-footed. Lear Capital can help you prepare for the uncertainty of tomorrow and the potential turmoil in America if Trump doesn't win. Lear Capital has had over $3 billion in trusted transactions. They have thousands of 5-star reviews and a 24-hour risk-free purchase guarantee. Lear Capital is the precious metal leader that you can trust. If you want to get protected and hedge what's going to be going on politically, give Lear Capital a call at 800-601-5430 or visit learberry.com. And by calling today, you may be eligible to pick up $15,000 in free bonus precious metals with a qualified purchase. Give Lear a call at 800-601-5430 or go to learberry.com.
we had a great time at the
All right, so I'm going to pause here. That was my little inserted commercial there. I hope it didn't bother people, but if you do need to get something, go ahead and give them a call. So I'm going to take some comments right now. Belinda says she can't afford gold right now, but looking to silver. Silver would be a good, very good hedge as well. It's a lot less expensive, so it is easier to buy. Thank you, Barry, for all you do. Thank you. God made us to be good as humans turn bad and did F up this. I didn't read that whole thing. Yep, but Satan, their father comes first and personally. Well, you guys are going deep right now. Deep, 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 deep. Wow. Didn't expect that. JFK was a Catholic. William Gary says he's got 300 in gold. That's a start, bro. That's a start. Let's see. Jeff J. Grace says, Jeff J. says, thank you, Barry, for everything we do. We've only had 2 good presidents. Who are the 2 good presidents? JFK and Trump? Not really sure. Let me know who your two good ones are. Will G says he's got several bars of silver. Get more silver if you can afford it. Get some gold. And also, make sure you get some ammo. Hopefully you have something to use the ammo with. But if you don't, get that as well. Because I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not even going to try to be a prognosticator and think where things could go. I don't know, but I do know if Dementia Joe and his cohorts get in for another 4 years, all hell is going to break loose. I mean, all hell is going to break loose. Let's see here. Are you giving anything away tomorrow? I'm giving it a trip away at the debate tomorrow. Yeah, I'll do during tomorrow's rally in Philadelphia. I'll give away like T-shirts and some hats. How's that? That work for you? We'll do that. We'll make sure that happens. Thank you very much for all your research. Absolutely. So this is I would buy palladium. That's what the war in Ukraine is being fought over right now. Interesting. Very interesting. All right. So and Reagan did the tax cuts. Yes, he did. Absolutely. So this is a long interview, and I think it's really important that we talk about it because it's not often that you get to see 3 or 4 billionaires get in a room and in the same room be able to record what they're saying and interview President Trump. So these 4 guys got together. Trump decided he was going to do a Zoom call on their podcast and answer some questions. Now, I cut out some of the stuff that they talked about. They talked about his stance on removing babies, which we already know. He talked about something with the country over there, and these guys upstairs won't allow me to talk about it. So I wanted to stick with the financial part of it. So let's listen to what these guys did when they talked to Donald Trump about financial stuff and some interesting stuff about JFK. Let's take a listen.
Fundraiser that we did a couple weeks ago. I think it turned out great. And I heard the Winklevoss brothers are actually announcing that they're donating $1 million each in Bitcoin to you tomorrow. So I think that's a great result to come out of it as well.
Yeah. Now understand, the Winklevoss brothers are twins, donating to Trump, giving him $1 million in Bitcoin. That's a signal to some people. That's a signal, hey, listen, this guy is going to be okay with crypto. Hey, crypto bros. That's pretty much what he's saying. The Winklevosses were somehow they were involved with Zuckerberg in the founding of Facebook, but they got a lot of bucks as well. And so now these guys, in addition to the 4 guys you're listening to today, the Winklevoss brothers are now going to be putting $1 million into Trump in the form of crypto. What does that mean to you, the regular person? You and me, regular people, right? What does it mean to us? Follow the money. If the safety, I mean, yes, okay, so Dementia Joe goes out to Hollywood and raises $28 million from these different celebrities, and they do these things. It's different, and here's why it's different. These guys are actually doing things with money. Clooney, Julia Roberts, they're actors. They are not. I know Clooney has a tequila brand that he's doing right now, but he's not a institutional investor with as they said in the movie City Slickers when Curly found the gold, and he said they got friends. They only raised $28 million, and I say only, at the George Clooney thing. As I showed you in one of those articles, Trump got 50 from one person. No event. Didn't have to go out and have a band. Didn't need Obama. Didn't need Clinton. He had a phone call. Yeah, I'm sending you 50 million. That's the kind of input that I want to see. I want to know that he's talking to these people. And let me just let these guys continue so you can hear what Trump says as well. Let's see here.
Got to meet them for the first time at your house, and terrific.
Absolutely.
Really nice guys.
And I think...
All right, so again, these are those four guys I just mentioned. David Friedberg, Jason Kalkanis, Chamath is in the lower right, and then David Sachs in the top right is the big dog at the table. Actually, I think Chamath might even have more money than David Sachs, but let's see what happens here.
Maybe this is a good place to start in our conversation is, one of the things I think we heard a lot at that dinner was just the difficulty that people in business were having under this Biden administration. You got the crypto guys who just want a framework. They just want the government to tell them how to operate, and they can't get that. You got no M&A happening right now in tech.
Okay, so what M&A is, and I don't mean to insult or placate anybody or talk down to anybody. I'm not being condescending. M&A is mergers and acquisition. A lot of these guys make big money in mergers and acquisition. These where they'll buy a company and they'll merge it with two other companies, and it becomes a huge company that's generating a lot of cash. Right now, there's not a lot of M&A going on, especially in the tech industry. So when you hear Facebook buying Oculus or something like that, or some big company, Elon Musk buying Twitter for $44 billion. We're talking about huge transactions that require a ton of capital and for people to get behind. And they're saying this isn't happening in Dementia Joe's economy.
The real estate guys, they can't get loans because the interest rates are through the roof and there's a credit crunch. So I think one of the common themes we just heard across that dinner was that it was just so hard to do business right now. And I guess maybe a good place to start would just be, what's the number one thing, or maybe the top three things that you would do to kind of get things moving again? All
right, so he mentioned real estate. That's me. That's my forte. I'm in real estate. Been in real estate for 20-something years. Been an investor, bought tons of houses. And he's absolutely right. At this point, it all devolved once Dementia Joe got involved. That and those big hedge funds that were buying up the rental property. So at this point, the interest rate for the mom and pop person who wants to buy a house to move in, which is where we all want to be to sell these people houses. So if I bought a house, went in and renovated it, and down here in South Florida, especially on the water, if you want to spend, buy a house for $1 million cash, you want to go ahead and put $1 million into it, you're into it for $2 million, and then you sell it for 3.5 or $4 million. You got to have that initial $2 million to make that deal happen. And so what you often do will get bridge loans or hard money loans or even bank loans where your debt service wasn't going to kill you. It's like, hey, I've got a $4 million payday coming up once I get this property constructed or renovated. So now you're hurting on two sides, because the people who are going to buy for $4 million are looking at rates at 8 or 9% and going, I'm not doing that. I was paying 1 and 2% when Trump was president. And so if your buyer pool has shrunk, now your ability in forecasting on what you're going to profit if you renovate and sell this house shrinks as well, because you don't have a pool of buyers and you're probably going to have to reduce your prices. Luckily down here in South Florida, especially on the water, there's a lot of, how can I say it, agnostic real estate. Some of these people have FU money and they'll walk in with $4 or $5 million cash and just buy the house. But for the most part, across the country, the credit markets have tightened up so bad where it's extremely tough for people to even get good mortgages.
If you're reelected.
So I'd say regulation, and taxes. Okay? You know, I gave the biggest tax cut in the history of our country, and a lot to business. It took them down from, look, as you know, they were paying companies were paying 40%, 45%, including state and city taxes in many cases. And we got it down to 21%. We'd like to get it down lower, actually, but we got it down. And the revenues were better than ever, even with the lower rate. We had a record revenues, which tells you a little bit about that.
So what he's saying there is that even by lowering taxes, because the economy was so robust, they were actually to be able to raise more revenue, more taxes. More people making money, more people paying in. Really simple. Right now, Dementia Joe, less people paying in, you're making less money, so you need to raise taxes instead of raising the opportunity. And that's where there's a huge disconnect with the libs. They hear this conversation, and it's so over their head. It's so far over their head in understanding how this big thing called the United States economy works and how it has to be stimulated to continue to churn. And we saw during the pandemic how when you shut that down, there's no revenue. When I say revenue, that you can't pay taxes, you can't collect taxes if people aren't working. So in essence, what Dementia Joe has done is extended the horror of business. Restaurants are closing down across the country. I see stuff on Twitter and it makes me laugh because I hear some people say some stupid stuff. Well, I guess if they knew how to run a business, they wouldn't be in this trouble. You have no idea. You have no idea what food costs are. You have no idea what the insurance rates are. You have no idea what the carrying cost is on any loans these people have. So what ends up happening is they go out of business. And they go out of business, then what happens? You lose your job. You lose your job, you're no longer paying taxes. I don't understand how libs can't see this. There was a funny, I should have snapped it. There was this funny thing that happened last week. This company, I'm not sure which city they're in, they had 4 cafes, four Starbucks type organization. They had like 4 cafes. The employees at these cafes, all purple-haired nuts, which that's a different problem HR must have had, decided they were going to unionize and demand more money. A living wage, whatever the hell that means. I want a living wage. Okay, so we're going to unionize. You know what the company did? The company said, all right, we're closing all 4 locations. Done. You're done. I'm done. Bye. And then the people were protesting, trying to demand that the company reopen the restaurants. That's not how this works, man. How are you going to demand that somebody reopens a closed restaurant? How can you force somebody to lose money? They don't even make sense. They can't even think about what they're talking about. So you decided to unionize, and you thought you had basically put the owners in checkmate, not realizing that people with money go, well, close it. Oh, okay. And then what happens with all those people at those 4 locations who had jobs? You're done. Now you got to go become wards of the government and suck off the government teat. Because now you got stupid, you went to college, got stupid, decided you were going to be like Cesar Chavez and carry a sign and picket and unionize until the person who writes the checks, who signs the check in the front, decides, I'm not signing any more checks. I don't need this shit. And I'm done. Close them right now. I'll move them to someplace where we can actually profit. That's one of the problems that these people don't understand. Business is what drives the economy. It's not the government. The government does not drive the economy. Business drives the economy. Business employs you. Business employs you so that you can pay taxes to the government. See how that whole cycle works? And you start taking those different cogs out. We're going to close some restaurants. We're going to close these businesses. And we're going to make all these people unemployed. That's less money for the government. It's idiotic that people don't understand it. But that's our colleges.
But also the regulations. And when I asked a lot of people, a lot of big people, a lot of corporate types, big corporate types, I said, if you had your choice between just the taxes or just the regulations, where did I do better? He said the regulations. I was the biggest cutter of in 4 years. I cut more regulations than anybody by far, not even close. And when I spoke to different people about the regulation versus the taxes, I don't think I've ever had anybody say, and the taxes were a massive cut, from 37, 38%, if you look at it just there, to 21%. I don't think I ever had anybody say that the taxes were more important than the regulation cuts.
Where do you think the tax cuts went? If a company doesn't have to pay X amount of tax, they get a tax break. Where do you think that tax break goes? Do you think it goes directly into the pockets of the owner? Hey man, I made $500,000 this year. Instead of having to pay 40%, I only got to pay 20. So I've made an extra $100,000. What am I going to do with that? I think libnuts think that they just put it in their pocket. No, that's not how it works. I used to work for a billionaire. He's loaded. To this day, he's still a billionaire. And I would watch. I learned a whole lot working for him. I hated working at the place where I was. I'm not going to mention the name, but I loved watching his moves. So here he's churning and he's making money. And then when he would take that money, he would go buy something. Personal or business. Personal, this guy loved to buy cars. He'd buy cars like you and I buy groceries. He'd go and buy a Ferrari cash, not think twice about it. He'd go and buy a Mercedes. He'd go and buy his kids' cars. He'd go and he has a jet, and he'd fly where he'd want to. Every single one of those purchases happened to fund somebody else. When he went and stroked a check for the $250,000 Ferrari, to him it's a toy, to him it's an investment, to that business it's income so that they can pay their employees. You just don't sit, no, there's not a single rich person who looks at their money and just sits there and stares at it sitting in a box somewhere. And I think that's what a lot of libs don't understand. The money, if I make more, I just don't sit there and look at it. It does nothing for me. You've seen the meme with the stick, do something. It just sits there. It's a bunch of cash just sitting there. It does nothing for me. However, when I take that money and I go someplace and I buy a yacht, or I take a trip, or I buy a car, or I buy a business, I'm putting that money somewhere that somebody else is going to get the benefit of. Our media and the libnuts have tried to make people with money seem like they're charlatans, like they don't know what they're doing, like they're just sitting there hoarding money. Not true. Not true. I want to know, based upon the governmental, quote, regulations, like Trump said, and the taxation, where's best for me to put my money? Maybe it might be smart for me to buy a football team if I've got that kind of money. I get to write it off. I own this team. What happens when you own a team? I'm paying the wide receiver, I'm paying the quarterback, I'm paying the halfback, I got to paint the stadium. You're paying people. You're taking the risk to buy this asset. And I know this sounds really elementary, but when you're talking seriously high finance, I'm trying to break it down so people understand that billionaires are really no different than me and you. They're just doing it with more zeros. It's my wife's birthday today. We're going to go buy her a car tomorrow. Yay! Buy her in a car. She's ecstatic. I'm not buying a Ferrari, but whatever we end up buying tomorrow, she's going to be happy. We were blessed to have the money to go ahead and buy her a car. And the people at the dealership, all the service people, the sales people, everybody is going to make a piece of our purchase. When you go to the grocery store, right now it sucks because we're paying so much for groceries, but all the people you see in the store benefit by virtue of your purchase. That's there's no difference. It's just bigger purchases with more zeros at the end. They're able to buy more because they have more, but they are benefiting the rest of the economy. And go all the way down the food chain. When you buy something, we bought something the other day, you buy it, the store gets, makes money from it, taxes are taken out of it, sales tax, and then I noticed it the other day, this is going to shock you guys, we had to throw the box away that the gift came from. It was a huge box. It was a huge present. And I walked outside and we put all the stuff outside so the guys, when they came in the truck, and I realized, wow, that garbage that we put out on the street means that these people can continue working picking up garbage. I thank them. I swear to God, I actually thank them for picking up the stuff that we left out there. And I realized at that point, they're allowed to keep working because the city can keep paying them because they have to keep going out and picking up trash in our neighborhood. You see that cycle of life, that chain of what do you call it? The cycle of life, chain of life. How it works? Just imagine. So they're no different than you. We're just in a different level. If I had $1 billion, I know what my wife would be doing. We would look at our budget and we'd like, you know what? We need to spend X or Y or Z today. Let's go ahead and spend it. And everybody on the other end gets some. Get some. Florida native says Biden equal super inflation. Blue hair. I don't know if you saw that video, Mike. It was funny as hell. They were all complaining. No, that like a week before they had videos out there that they were happy that they went through and basically unionized the coffee shops. And then like 2 weeks later, it's like, what do you mean we closed? Yeah, you're done. We're done. We're not dealing with this crap. Bye. Go get some EBT cards. Let's see. Let's see here. Hey there, mayors. People talking to each other. Thank you, Cinderella. Yep. Today is my wife's birthday. She's out there getting her nails done somewhere right now. Connected is better than a chain. Okay. Hopefully Trump can reverse inflation. Costs have got to go down, way down. And they will. It's not difficult for it to happen. I love your comment here because you listen to people on TV and they think that it's a tough thing to do. It might take some time, but it's not tough. Here's why. If we were drilling and bringing, drill baby drill. If we were drilling for gas prices would come down. We could sell it elsewhere. Our dollar would be more valuable. If you've noticed, I'm not sure if you know what's going on with currency, but there's an entire effort of de-dollarization going on right now. Other countries no longer look at us as the standard. Nah, man, we don't want that green shit. Nah, it doesn't make it's not that good anymore. You got China dumping tons of cash. Now we're not going to sit on your cash anymore. It doesn't have any value. Why does it not have any value? Well, because you're printing it. You're printing it like it's going out of style and you've got nothing. No collateral behind it. There's no way for you to pay it. Your energy, your businesses, nothing is producing enough for you to back those dollars. And so when you keep printing that money, it doesn't have the same value, i.e. inflation. Now, at the same time, we're not doing anything. When Trump's talking about raising tariffs and all this kind of stuff, it's basically to help tamp down inflation, get interest rates back down. The money goes back into the economy. So it's not a hard thing to do. Dementia Joe just won't do it. It's intentional at this point. There is a reason. I don't know, other than communism, Marxism. But there is a reason he won't drill. There's a reason why he wants to get oil from other countries, let them get rich, and basically make America starve. I saw yesterday that they're basically fining farmers for using water. They're tightening the screws on us, just like that. So no, it won't be hard to do. Like I said, it'll take some time, but it ain't hard. Drill. Get the oil flowing. The more oil you get, the more value you have. Then you can sell stuff and you can bring in money. We're not drilling. Why? It's intentional. Get the farmers out there making stuff. Reward people for making things in America instead of overseas. It's not hard. It's really not hard. Dearborn, Michigan has become a radical Islamic community passing sacrificial laws on our loved animals. Ouch. Oof, man. Yeah, Robert Littlejohn. Yeah, vote Republican up and down. Now understand, some of these Republicans, they're not there yet either. They're nuts. I mean, Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham is a war hawk of epic proportions, and all he wants to do is continue to fund war. I don't know what stock he owns. There's a regulation. You should force every person in politics, if they hold an elected office, have to make transparency of what stocks they own. Make that. Nobody was supposed to go into politics and be able to sit in a meeting and go, oh, we're going to send missiles to Ukraine. Hey, buy me $1 million worth of those that missile stock because it's about to go up. There's a guy on Twitter who follows Nancy Pelosi's trades. I guess he found her handle or her broker, and they got in a previous Twitter realm, he got taken down because of what she was doing. I say make that stuff all. Make that stuff all public. Hey, Teresa, Lindsay is a rhino. I don't know how much Lindsay is a rhino versus Lindsay is a greenbacker. He doesn't care where the money's coming from, long as it keeps coming. It's insane. I mean, he was meeting with Richard Blumenthal, who is the Connecticut senator up there, and they're talking about, hey, we need to do more for that country over there with this guy and send him more and more money so he can defeat Putin. Insane. I live in New England. I used to live in New England. The New England states need to wake the F up. That's an understatement. There are parts of New England, like I said, I'm originally from Connecticut. There's parts of Connecticut that I could go back 30 years since I've been to those areas and put a circle on the map and tell you it's still a ghetto. It will always be a ghetto because these people keep voting the same way. So let me continue here so I don't keep you guys all day, but because there's just some fascinating stuff that these guys say. Let's get back into it.
I made it possible to build. I made it possible to do things, to invest. I was able to get companies with a lot of money outside of the USA to bring that money back in. You know, we cut the rate, and it was crazy. The rate was like 55%, so that means if they bring the money back, they lose half their money before they even start. But it was also impossible from a standpoint, a structural standpoint, a legal standpoint. It was very hard. And they were able to bring back, I mean, Apple's an example. They brought hundreds of billions of dollars back from other countries into the United States and invested it here. So, but it,
I don't use an Apple. I'm a Android guy, but you understand what he's saying. And I'm stopping every so often. I'm reading what you guys are saying. This is such high level stuff. I mean, I was salivating listening to this interview, and I'm like, I gotta talk to people about this because it really goes to show where we are in this country in terms of people understanding the financial trauma that Dementia Joe has inflicted upon America.
It's very interesting because I ask the question all the time, which was more important? And almost everybody said I did an even better job. And I got the biggest tax cuts. The biggest tax cuts, bigger than the Reagan tax cuts, but they found regulations, and the regulation cuts were even more effective. And that's where we had the great economy, and that's where we had the most jobs ever produced.
So there's this odd thing that happens in certain states where taxes keep going up, and then you start to see the states break, right? Productivity breaks, crime goes up, and quality of life goes down. But then people don't understand that taxation and all of those things are correlated. Do you have an idea of why that is? Like, why don't people understand universally that lower taxation is better for productivity?
Great question. Why is it that half the country at this point, the libnuts, think that it's better to have higher taxes than lower taxes? I can give you the answer. Before Trump even gives the answer here, one of the answers is because that's how people have been trained. They're basically trained monkeys. They don't understand. They haven't been taught that free enterprise is what made this country. This country basically evolved from people leaving England going, we're done with your craziness over here. We're going to go over to this place and start new. We're going to start fresh because you're taxing the crap out of us. And I'm going to go over there and we're going to start our businesses and we're going to start our families. We're going to start understanding what prosperity. Oh, but Barry, that's not fair to the black people who were slaves coming over here. Hundreds of years ago, in my Lear Capital moment, I showed you my dad. My dad, who was born in 1938, never baled any hay. Came over from Jamaica with his two brothers. Worked to learn a trade. I'm like, you know what? Hey man, I think I'd like to open up my own company. Back when there really was a whole lot of racism. Gets this older Jewish man to fund it. Next thing you know, he's got his own business in the newspaper, black entrepreneur. Why don't black people understand that today? Why do people on the left not understand you could do so much? Nobody's stopping you. Case in point, I've bought and sold a bunch of real estate. I decided I was going to start a YouTube channel. Nobody stopped me. You open a YouTube account. It's free. You then have to buy a camera. You have to buy a microphone. You've got to buy some lights. But you can start off with just your cell phone. You can go outside. There's the biggest light in the world out there called the sun and just start talking. The other day I saw a video. I loved it. 23-year-old girl, woman. If I say girl, my wife gets mad. She monitors my feed. 23-year-old woman. She decided she was going to open up a TikTok account. She makes $20,000 a month. She was going through her income and her expenses. Hey, she goes, I make $21,000 a month, and this is what I do, and this is what I spend, and this is what I net. And I looked at the comments, and people were freaking. Just like, oh my God, she must be on OnlyFans. She must be doing porn. No, she's got a business. She's 23 years old. She learned how to make videos about food. And she's a foodie. I don't know how many of you guys watch Chef Ramsay. Right now, MasterChef's on. It's the season for MasterChef. And they were doing, social media chefs. People who decided that they were just going to make food on camera. There's a huge, huge market for food on camera. Teach you how to do this. Teach you how to do that. One of the most sought after recipes is fried rice. People out there put in fried rice in YouTube and see all the different videos about making fried rice. It only took this for someone to get up and make a video and do something. And now she's making $20,000+ a month. It's that simple. She had to learn. She's like, okay, so now I've made this video. I got to learn how to edit it. I got to do this. I got to do that. Nobody stopping you. The libs think they can't make life work. Don't know why people think that. So let's hear Trump answer that question.
Well, they don't understand it, and it's such an interesting question because you look at some of these places like Chicago and New York and L.A. and so many more. You know, I hate to even mention the three because there are worse examples than that. You look at what's happened in Oakland, and you look at what's happened into some cities that are disappearing. I mean, they're literally just crime waves. Nobody lives there except for criminals because you can't live there. You can't survive there. Physically, you can't survive there. And when you look at the kind of crime that we're talking about, and then they take the power away from the police can't do anything. If they do anything to stop it, they end up losing their pension, their house, their family. They end up losing everything. They get put in jail. And
who wants to live like that? Who wants to live like the blue cities are living right now? Don't even get me started on what's been happening the last couple of days with these newcomers doing this heinous stuff to women. Absolutely heinous stuff to women that the other media won't even talk about. Nah, it's like it never even happened. We don't want to offend them. No, offend them a lot. Dementia Joe doesn't even make the phone call to the woman's mother. 12-year-old, 13-year-old, they're turning into what Trump said they were going to turn into. And everybody got mad when he said the word S-holes. These cities are going to be S-holes. Oh my God, how could he insult people like that? New York, I lived in Connecticut, like I told you. New York was one of my favorite cities. New York was one of my wife's favorite cities. I'm not going there. Ain't gonna happen.
And we're not talking about the rogue cops who do something really bad and should be taken care of badly. You know, be nasty. You got to be nasty to them also. But mostly, I mean, these people, they want to really, like 99%, they want to stop crime. They hate to see it. They're not allowed to even, they're told not to do anything. Mm-hmm. When you see a department store that was so proud, they opened up a new store in a certain city, and all of a sudden, over the last couple of years has happened, this phenomena where 500 usually young people walk into the store and take everything. They have masks on. They walk out with television sets, air conditioners. They walk out with everything. This is a new phenomena that's taken place, and it's incredible. Look at drugstores. Look at what's going on. Like in New York, you walk into a chain. I've seen it twice. I don't walk into too many drugstores, but I used to love it. I used to love to walk around and just look at what it is, whether it's a drugstore or a department store. But they told me just a little while ago, I had a meeting with some people, and they say you walk into a drugstore in New York, and everything's covered up with bars and glass, and if you want just a little thing of aspirin or if you want to buy a toothbrush, you have to wait a half an hour to get a clerk, and they open up this vault and they give you a toothbrush, or they give you it's.
Now think, all these guys, as I introduced them, are basically billionaires. All five, including Trump. So if you're one of these guys and you're like, you know what? I'd like to open up a drugstore. Maybe I can buy into Walgreens. Let me buy some Walgreens stock. Let me buy some CVS stock. Let me buy some Duane Reade stock, or maybe if one of them has a franchise. And you walk into one of these stores. You decide, I'm going to walk into a local drugstore and see what kind of return I could get if I were to buy this store. And you're like, wait a second. What's your loss rate here? How much are you losing from theft? It's unsustainable. Dementia Joe, he doesn't care. Obviously Newsom doesn't care. You got these businesses just fleeing, getting the hell out. They don't seem to care. That's why I always keep saying it's intentional. They don't care that if you cared, you would stop what's going on. If you cared, you would stop the shootings every single weekend in Chicago. There are parts of these cities that are absolute no-goes. You been to Baltimore lately? People are like, oh, you're exaggerating. Baltimore's beautiful. Parts of it. But at night, you're not going to go downtown by yourself. Ain't going to happen. You're not going to go by the pier and just happen to go by the inner harbor and walk by yourself. You're going to get preyed upon. Our inner cities are collapsing under their own weight of complete incompetence at this point. It's absolutely nuts.
How do you do business like that?
You can't.
This is a phenomenon. There's never been anything like this. They didn't used to have theft of even the most minor items. They had very little theft, relatively speaking. They didn't have theft. But the police would arrest them if they did something. Today they don't. They have limits sometimes. If you steal less than $2,000, you don't get arrested. So nobody steals more than $2,000. It's incredible when you see what's happened to the quality of life in our country. And it's happened so quickly. It's taken place so rapidly. Nobody's ever seen anything.
Something happened today. I have to stop and let you know this. And talking about quality of life in the cities. We watched all these college campus protests. We watched them go wild in New York. Take over places. Hold people hostage. Break into stuff. Trespass. All the charges were dropped. What? We got people still in jail for January 6th, and you're telling me in New York, Alvin Bragg, the same guy who went after Trump, decided, yeah, don't worry about it, we're going to drop all the charges. And you're trying to tell me this shit's not intentional? Obviously it's intentional. It is absolutely intentional. How do you let all that happen? Basically spit in your police officer's face, have them go in and break up these encampments, go in and sweep them out, and then say, you know what, all the people who are here, yeah, it's okay. They were just being kids.
But you look at retail, and I know the big deal. It used to be a big deal when a department store moved into a city or, a certain store opened up even in a town. But it's usually the Democrat-run big cities where this problem is taking place. And I don't say that as a Republican. I just say you look at the 25 cities, the top problems, they're just about all Democrat. They're Democrat-run.
And they're also high tax, high regulation states.
Yeah, no cash bail, all of these different things that have taken place. They're phenomena. It's a phenomena.
Don't do that here. Remember a couple months ago, it was a year ago or so, where Jason Aldean made that music or that song with the music video, don't do that in a small town, and people freaked out? Yeah, don't do that in a small town. That ain't happening here in Florida. You know why? Because as you're thinking about doing the crazy stuff in South Florida, or all of Florida for that matter, you better assume that every single person you see, every single person that, if you're a bad guy, you think you're going to go rob, you better have to assume that every single person has a gun. That's why they're trying so hard to take things away from people. Because down here, you go ahead and do some of that crazy stuff, you might get lit up. You might just that might be the last time you grab somebody's purse. That may be the last time you jump in front of somebody's car. Down here, you go ahead and try to block the road. You got about 20 minutes till the police arrive, and they're going to drag you off like worse than a dog. I wouldn't drag a dog the way these people would get dragged. If you cared, you'd stop it. If you wanted it to stop, you'd stop it. These blue cities don't want it to stop. It started probably with the whole George Floyd thing. Go ahead, loot, rob, burn, do whatever you need to do. I live in Boca Raton, Florida, and I can tell you there are certain areas above me and below me, like Fort Lauderdale. There's some dicey neighborhoods, but they keep it, it's not real bad. There's some really dicey neighborhoods in Miami that are getting, gentrified. But we don't normally see crime. I mean, knock on wood, we really don't see it. You know what the crime is in this area? People speeding on the highway. People speeding and going too fast. People being drunk, coming out of a bar or restaurant. Yesterday, I'm walking the dog, and my neighbor's house, the alarm went off. Next thing I know, cop showed up. And if the guy gets out the car and my dog starts barking at him, I'm like, hey, he thinks he's auditioning to be a canine. He's a little chihuahua. He's just laying there right now. And they just walked out the car, no guns drawn. I'm like, nope, it's just the alarm. Something happened, window, whatever. He knew it. He just had to respond. I live in a gated community way off the road, probably, I don't know, maybe a mile deep into our neighborhood, past a couple of ponds that may or may not have gators in them, depending on what time of year. There's nobody breaking in her house. It was wind. Her house is on the golf course side. Maybe a ball hit a window, errant ball. But that's what life is when you don't have this craziness going on in these neighborhoods.
What's going on? Nobody's ever seen anything like it, and it has to be stopped. It's a horrible quality of life, and on top of that, you can't walk to a store. You end up getting shot or mugged or something. The level of crime in the cities, in these big cities, is out of control. Nobody has ever seen anything like it.
Mr. President, can I just ask on your point about the tax cuts? Larry Summers made a comment the other day, and I thought maybe you could respond to his tweet that the tax cuts coupled with the tariffs that you've proposed would cause a massive, I think he called it the mother of all stagflation, where you would have kind of inflation because of the tariffs, you would have economic decline because more money would start to fund an increase in prices with tax coming down, tax cuts being put in place. Can you maybe just comment on the comment made by Larry Summers and how we implement tax cuts without inflation?
Well, let me say that I respect Larry Summers a lot. He's been right about a lot of things, and Obama and Biden have been wrong. Certain things that he said turned out to be true, certain things. And I do have a good respect for him. He's a different kind of a guy, and he speaks his mind. I happen to be a big believer in tariffs because I think tariffs give you two things. They give you economic gain, but they also give you political gain. If a country is out of control and something having nothing to do with economics or having nothing to do with money coming in or money going out, but other things that are very political, because there are a lot of other things involved in countries, you have tremendous power over a country. Now, not everybody can say that, but we can because we're the big piggy bank. But our piggy bank is going to...
You think that Dementia Joe could have this type of high-level discussion with these billionaires? Just as I'm watching Trump talk, doesn't have note one. There's no notes. There's no teleprompter. I'm talking business. I'm talking about the economy. I'm talking about stuff that I know about. You may not like his theory. You may not like the ideas he has, but they're real. These are actually his ideas, their ideas. We're talking high-level stuff right here. I don't think a lot of people understand that. He's talking way up here with these guys, of course, who are way up here. And they're having this conversation. I just loved it. I sat back and went, oh, my God. I would have paid to go to this if they had an event. If they were sitting on a stage, I would love to hear this type of talk. To me, this is a rally of a different kind. This is a rally where every single person, they should have done a town hall. They should do this again and do it at a town hall. And go, wait a second, whoa. What did you just say? Because I'm sure a lot of people who watched this interview didn't understand a lot of the stuff they talked about, but should. And so I felt compelled to say, okay, guys, I need to show you this stuff because, one, it's important for you to know. And number two, you're watching Trump just having a conversation about the economy, tariffs, business, without a... Okay, so that question, no. He's just sitting there. The guy is just sitting there fielding these questions one after the other and talking about what he knows about. He may consult some people when he actually puts different things in place, but he can tell you what he thinks about it. Do you think right now that Dementia Joe could have this type of conversation? Hell no.
It gets smaller and smaller all the time because we're losing power. We're losing a lot of, countries on the dollar. I mean, they're going like flies. If we ever lose that, that's the equivalent of losing a war. That would be unbelievable. That would really make us third world. We have lost so many countries. I looked the other day. So Russia's gone. You take a look. Ukraine doesn't sort of exist in a sense. Nobody knows what's going on there. But when you look at China is essentially gone. They're trying to get out of it. They're a primary competitor. Iran is not there. The other day I read where Saudi Arabia is willing to now go in various different currencies instead of the dollar.
So this is what I was talking about when I was mentioning the de-dollarization. So when he said these countries are gone, these are major countries who are now saying, nah, you can take your dollar and stick it. We don't want your money. We would rather trade in rubles. Your dollar, it's shit. How do you think that makes the rest of the country here, how it affects us? When other countries don't look at your currency as being worth anything. Why? Because your debt's too high. And again, this is the type of conversation that goes way over the head of so many people because they're not understanding what de-dollarization means. The reason why I signed with Lear Capital was because I only want to work with companies I believe in what they're doing. And this isn't a commercial part. This is the Barry part. And I understand that shit's hitting the fan, and I understand that our currency is being devalued. The more our currency devalues, the more you better have something in order to basically hedge that loss. And so what he's talking about right now on a much higher level is that these countries are all dumping the dollar. That doesn't scare you? Like he said, it's just like a war.
This is a tragedy. This is a big thing that's happening against our country, and we cannot let that happen. With tariffs, it gives you a tremendous power, as an example, not to let that happen. You say, you want to do that? We're going to put tariffs on your product coming into the United States. But more importantly, and that's a big importance.
And understand what he's saying there. You can basically look on your desk. I'm looking on my desk. And you pick up just about anything on your desk. Made from China. Made in Taiwan, made in Korea. I would be hard-pressed to look around here and find something that I know, the computer, maybe some of the parts, are made in America. And they're just shipping, they're just dumping their stuff here. Make Americans buy our stuff. I can't wait for, I think, mid-July when the new college football on PlayStation comes up. And I'm going to have to go buy a PlayStation from China. I don't know where Xbox is, but that's probably from China too. We don't make anything. Why? Well, Barry, we can't afford the labor. Oh, so what are all these newcomers going to do? Since he says, it's about labor. We're screwed at this point if things don't change. I mean, absolutely screwed.
Probably of more importance is they tax us, we tax them, reciprocal trade. I think we should have a reciprocal trade act. If China's going to charge us $100 tariff or 100% tariff on a car, then we should say, you got to pay 100% to us. I put on a large tariff on China cars coming in, and it had a huge impact, a huge positive impact. And Biden only is doing the electric cars. I don't know why that is, because the electric cars, they're going to end up all being made in China, by the way. They're not going to be made here. The United Auto Workers are going to take a blow like no unions have. Between that and people coming in, pouring into our country, unions are getting absolutely decimated. Absolutely.
President Trump.
But the reciprocal act is, I think, a very important thing when these countries, and I don't mean just China, we have other countries. You could take the European Union. They don't want our farm product, and they don't want our cars, and they don't want anything. We have a massive deficit right there. But you could go with many countries, and they essentially do things to us, and we should do things to them. Basically, it should be reciprocal.
One of the things we've talked about, President Trump, on this podcast a lot is the deficit. Under your administration, we added close to $8 trillion. Under Biden, it's going to be paradoxically about the same number. Seems incredibly unpopular in Washington to cut costs, but that's something we're going to need to do. What's your plan? And it looks like you're going to win a second term here. What's your plan in your second term to control spending? Can you get it under control? Is there the will in Washington to allow you to do that?
Well,
okay, before he answers that, okay, this is a huge question. Spending is out of control. The Democrats don't care. They will spend on anything because it doesn't matter to them. They're just going to print more dollars. Janet Yellen goes, yeah, it kind of got away from us. Yeah, we're dealing with a lot of inflation. All right, so I don't even remember, because I've seen this, which ones he's going to go through here. But you all can probably guess where some of this money can be cut. The government is so bloated at this point. One of the things I'm sure Trump has talked to Elon Musk about is Elon Musk went in with a machete and basically went with Twitter. Cut 3/4 of the staff, bunch of people, said, I don't need you. I don't need these bodies here. I need this, get this money back. Hasn't lost a beat. Everybody complained, but Twitter's still running. The guy from, where was that guy from? He's from Argentina. I love that video where he walked in and all the different departments were on his billboard there. And he's like, education, gone. This one, gone. This one, gone. What happened to Argentina? In less than a year, their economy's coming back. It's painful. Obviously, it's going to be painful for some, but in a country of 300 million plus people, there's going to be some attrition. There are so many people in government getting paid and government getting paid. We've all heard the stories about the $100 hammer and the $500 toilet and how some of these people, these companies are making just money hand over fist, charging the government stupid. And people are so stupid they don't even know to look. So let's hear his answer. How are you going to get spending under control?
The biggest thing I think is growth, because we can grow our way out. As an example, we have more liquid gold under our feet. I use the term. We have more oil. We have more wells. We have more everything than anybody else. When I started, we were number 3. Now we're number 1. We were number 1. He's going to keep it that way until after the election. If they ever won the election, there's no more oil coming out. There's no more oil. They were going down. Oil is what caused the inflation. You'd have nothing coming out. It would be a disaster. So they were intelligent enough to let the oil wells continue to go. They're not happy about it. But if this election were won by them, I can tell you right now, we would see oil go through the roof because they would really close it up. Already they're taking out of the strategic reserves just for politics because they want to try and keep the prices down as low as possible. But the big thing, we have tremendous growth potential, and we have tremendous numbers of dollars that can be saved through efficiency. The way we're spending money, hundreds of billions of dollars, what Biden did with the trillions of dollars that he borrowed for COVID. Now, I had a different situation. We were getting ready to start paying off debt. We were getting ready to make a lot. We had the greatest economy in history. I had to throw a lot of money at COVID in order that we didn't end up in a 1929 type depression, which we could still end up in now because of what they've done. But I threw a lot of money in, and we ended up not in a depression. And then we ended up with a very strong, I ended up with a higher stock market than it was just previous to COVID coming in, which was pretty much of a miracle, according to most. But we had to throw money out there in order to keep our country going. We would have ended up, if I didn't do that, we would have ended up in a depression. The problem is, when Biden came in, he took trillions and trillions of dollars for COVID. He didn't use it for COVID. He used it for other things. But he took trillions of dollars out, and that caused a lot of the inflation. His energy policies caused inflation, and his spending, the unbelievable spending that they did, caused inflation, tremendous inflation. And it's going to have an impact for a long time to come.
So, you guys get that. And there was a comment earlier as to why I keep interrupting, per se. And the reason being with that is we are all at different exits on the highway intellectually. I'm trying to make, when I put some stuff out here, you have to bear with me to a certain extent because I'm trying to basically help people along who also need the education. Some of you guys are obviously, you know what's going on. Just give me the answer, Trump. I just want to hear Trump's answer. But even something as simple to you as what's an M&A, some people may not realize what an M&A is. They don't understand mergers and acquisition. So I understand the audience here, and I want to make sure that as this because this conversation that you're listening to is so high level. It is so high in regards to what these guys are talking about that it may be lost on some people. So I'm just asking you, just relax. You're not going to miss anything. When I talk, I'm going to go right back to it. I just have to make sure that as many people as possible understand what's going on. Because if they don't understand, then they're not armed with the information to be able to talk to other people. Somebody can go saying, you know what, I saw this Trump talk today, and he was talking about mergers and acquisition. He was talking about currencies. He was talking about the de-dollarization of the United States. Because you're not hearing this on the news. I challenge you to go find out on any channel, even Fox, somebody talking about the de-dollarization of the American currency. Not going to hear it. They don't want you to know this. But at the same time, if he's talking about it and people in here aren't aware of what de-dollarization is, it can be kind of scary because he's talking high-level stuff here. So please bear with me when I'm trying to make sure that the entire boat here, all of us here, understand what's going on, because an informed person, an informed voter is better for everybody, because the libs out there aren't going to tell you this stuff. So let me cut here. I think I got my commercial coming up. It's going to be 2 minutes, but hang on. If you've watched my videos, you know that I've often referred to my dad came from Jamaica. He was an immigrant. He came the right way. And then he worked and busted his hump here in America to build a business. What you may not know is that he was so proud of America, he joined the Army. He even talked my brother into going to West Point. I didn't go that route myself. Didn't want to join the Army. But I always listened to him. One of the things he used to say is that America did so much for him that he wanted to protect it and protect the American way of life. And of course, he wanted to protect what he built. He worried specifically about times like we're living in today. So one of the lessons he told me was to protect yourself, son, and buy some gold. But I was too strong-headed, wanted to do my own thing, and I didn't listen. But as I grew older, I realized everything he said was right. So I bought gold to make sure my family was protected. Right now, I think all of us can see that America is in trouble. I'm sure, like me, you hope that Trump gets elected in November. However, you have to make sure you protect yourself now, just in case he doesn't. You definitely don't want to get caught flat-footed. Lear Capital can help you prepare for the uncertainty of tomorrow and the potential turmoil in America if Trump doesn't win. Lear Capital has had over $3 billion in trusted transactions. They have thousands of 5-star reviews and a 24-hour risk-free purchase guarantee. Lear Capital is the precious metal leader that you can trust. If you want to get protected and hedge what's going to be going on politically, give Lear Capital a call at 800-601-5430 or visit learberry.com. And by calling today, you may be eligible to pick up $15,000 in free bonus precious metals with a qualified purchase. Give Lear a call at 800-601-5430 or go to learberry.com.
Can you talk about your impoundment authority intention? You mentioned that in the past, that you could go in and reduce the bureaucracy and the spend. I always tell people my position going into the election is less that I'm interested in knowing what the government's going to do for me, and I'm more interested in knowing what the government's going to stop doing that doesn't do any good for anyone. And there seems to be a lot of that. And I'm really curious to hear, sir, how you think about using the impoundment authority vested in you as the president of the United States to reduce some of the bureaucracy, wasteful spending, and create accountability. And is there a team that you've built around you to help build a specific plan on backing out of some of these issues?
Right.
So to that guy who said, Barry, shut up and let them talk. I have to stop because how many people watching this right now, you can put it in the comments, how many of you people have ever heard about impoundment? Who has heard any discussion, any sort of conversation on the news about impoundment? Not talking about the time if somebody gets a car repossessed, but impoundment in government. So this guy just asked a question that it's basically Harvard business level question, and I just want to make sure you understand. So, but I'm going to let Trump talk and let him answer because it's important that you understand what he means by impoundment. Listen to this.
We have a lot of money floating around that should be brought back into the government, should be given back to D.C., to Washington. As you know, there was a lot of money given out over the last couple of years, especially over the last. My money was given out to help us with COVID. Then they took money and they have no idea what they're even doing with it. That money can be given back, and it should be given back, and things can be done with that money that are positive. But there are many, many things. I'll give you an example. Education. We spend more on education per pupil than any other country. We spend numbers that are, and yet we're terrible at it. We're down at the bottom of the list, and yet we're at the top of the list. I am going to, very early in the administration, we're going to send education back to the states. We're going to give them approximately half the number of dollars, and they're going to have so much money that like they've never had before.
Wow.
Because they can spend a fraction of what we're spending right now and have much better school systems. As an example, you could name many. You go to Nebraska, you go to Iowa, you go to many states. We'll do a far better job than we're doing right now, and they'll do it for a fraction of the cost. We'll save a tremendous amount of money and have better. Some states, I don't believe, will do a very good job, but they're going to have to learn to. But we have, I would say most of our states will do a much better job. I think all of them will do better than, you can't do worse than what we're doing right now, but all of them will do better. But some will be absolutely education, a factory in a positive sense, factories. We are going to close up education. We'll have a tiny little group to make sure everyone's teaching at least English and perhaps proper math, et cetera, but very little. Department of Education goes, and education goes back to the states and where it belongs. I mean, where it absolutely belongs. And you're going to save a lot of money. You can look at interior with that. You can look at environmental with a lot of that, where the environment can be controlled by the states instead of this big bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. I mean, what do you do when China's burning all the coal and they're sending the ashes over the United States? Because that's what happens. It takes 3.5 days and it blows over the United States. In the meantime, we're keeping things good. We produce clean coal. We're going to produce clean energy, but we have to get back to energy. We're spending trillions of dollars on artificial, weak energy that's not going to fire up our plants. Our plants have to be fired up. We have a phenomena coming up right now, and I was talking about it the other day to David, and that's AI, little things, two little simple letters, but it's big. And
so before he gets into AI, he just said a mouthful when he talked about impoundment. Basically, impoundment is taking a big eraser and just saying, nope, nope, no. And he went through a number of things real quick, just rattled them off. No notes, nothing, just talked. Environmental, the Department of Environmental Protection, whatever they do, and basically tell you what you can't do. The other one was, obviously, education. And he's absolutely right about education. I bet you many of you know people at some of these school systems in the blue cities where they constantly get just tons, tens, hundreds of millions of dollars. Baltimore, inner city, blue city, has gotten hundreds of millions of dollars every single election. We got to spend more on education. Baltimore just did a dump of data where it said 45% of the students in Baltimore, 45% of the black students in Baltimore, grade 0 in math. To me, that's atrocious. To me, that is malpractice. They graded 0 in math. Yet every single year, we got to spend more money on education. And Randy Weingarten and the teachers union and all the stuff they do, and kids can't friggin' read. My daughter's a teacher. She's like, I can't even understand how these kids are getting through life. They're not. They're just, and she's not allowed to fail people, especially don't fail a black kid. Oh no, you better not fail a black kid. And they just keep going. To me, that's another money laundering factory. The government gives $1 gazillion to the teachers union, and then the teachers union go to the polls and they vote Democrat and they indoctrinate kids, and it just goes like this. Hey, here's 100, here's 200, here's $300 million. Oh, let's just go ahead and vote Democrat. Here's another $500 million. Oh, we'll just go ahead and vote Democrat. Whoa, stop. What about these kids? Fuck them kids. Excuse my language. I'm sorry I said that. It's a joke from a comedian. But these kids can't read. These kids can't do any math. I just saw yesterday that Gavin Newsom said he's going to basically finally say these kids can't bring cell phones into class. Oh my God, it's 2024, and you just realize that kids with cell phones in their class make them completely unteachable. They're sitting in class going, yeah, okay, about that. Oh, look at on TikTok. Oh, look what. So you got your homework? No, I got no homework. Shut up. Don't ask my mom either. When I grew up, as big as I was, big man football, 6'2", 300 plus pounds, bench press a house. My mom, little 5'8", 5'9" woman. We're going to have to call your mother. Oh, no. Whatever you do, don't call her. She crazy, all right? What do you need me to do? I had fear of my mother until I got into college, and then still had fear if she decided she was going to do a pop-in and come down to campus. These kids don't even have that fear of their mom, and they don't even know who their dad is. And they're just getting pushed through, and the money keeps going. The Environmental Protection Agency, and he's talked about the windmills and all this crap, ain't doing nothing. You want to fix the environment? Go ahead and drill and just make sure that everything is fine in terms of it aren't leaking, there's no oil spills. But they've put so much regulation on things. That's what he's talking about. You can save so much money. Oh, and the big thing he said, put it in control of the states. The government doesn't have to be involved in all of this. Let the states carry, and basically the government should monitor the states, make sure the kids can actually read before they get any more funds. And if they can't read, get in there and get rid of these people. Obviously, you're not teaching. You're not showing kids how to become better, successful people in society. Again, another high-level conversation about impoundment, about taking money away from these agencies. I love it.
I realized the other day, more than anything, when we were at David's house and talking to a lot of geniuses from Silicon Valley and other places, they need electricity at levels that nobody's ever experienced before to be successful, to be a leader in AI. The amount of electricity they need is like double what we have right now and even triple what we have right now. It's incredible how much they need to be the leader. And we're going to have to be able to do that. And a windmill turning with its blade, knocking out the birds and everything else is not going to be able to make us competitive. You'll have China.
What about nuclear, Mr. President? Yeah. So let me just give you a statistic on this. China's building 150 nuclear reactors, and they're only spending about $2,500 a kilowatt. In the U.S., we're not building any, and our cost to build them is about $10,000 a kilowatt.
See what I mean? High-level conversation. He's breaking it down to kilowatt prices. So if you're a billionaire and you're out there looking at buying stores, retail packages, retail commerce, commercial real estate, and you got to basically put the power in these places. Imagine you are Walgreens. You've got 1,000 locations that you're paying electric bills on. And my kilowatt hour, that's somebody who's taking his margin and looking at it and going, I'm paying 5 times as much here, 4 times as much for electricity for my stores than China is. Why? Because China's got these nuclear plants all over the place that have lowered electric costs way down. How do I compete when I'm paying 4x the amount for electricity? And then our government says, oh, no, nuclear bad, we can't do nuclear. Well, how do you expect me to compete? I've got 1,000 locations. I'm Mr. McDonald's, and I've got 5,000 different locations. Do you know what my electric bill is like? Can you imagine what the electric bill is like for a company like McDonald's or Subway or Walmart? Just think to yourself, all the different locations across the country, what that must cost them to run those stores. Democrats don't care. You need to give us a living wage. Well, you understand I'm paying 4 times the cost for electricity to keep the meat cold than these other countries can do? And you're devaluing my dollar on top of all that? Again, way up here. And this guy just casually throws this stat out, and I'm like, oh, wait. Do people understand that? You're never going to hear this on the news. This guy starts talking about kilowatt hour. You're hearing a high-level conversation. Again, I'm going to say it without a single note. Trump ain't taking no notes, just not reading. They're just talking. They're just talking about how to get this stuff done.
And China's about to build as much capacity as 20% of the total U.S. production in nuclear. We clearly have a problem here in nuclear.
We do, and nuclear is okay with me. And what we're doing is You know, if you look at Alabama, you look at a couple of states where they built these plants and they had cost overruns that are nobody's ever seen anything like it, where they're costing $25 billion to build a plant. There were a couple of them built in the South. I won't mention the places, but you know the places. And they came out at numbers that I think the most expensive things ever built in our country. And the inspectors would go in, they say, those walls aren't thick enough, knock them down and build another wall. And, you know, the environmental people were brutal. You know, in France and
regulations.
And in other places where they do have a lot of nuclear, they build small plants all the same. And if they need double the amount, they'll build two of them, as opposed to the nonsense that we've done where we build these massive plants and they never get built and they have cost overruns of 3, 4, 500%. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. No, I'm okay with nuclear, but you have to do it in a way that makes sense. And they have nuclear applications today that can be built and can be built reasonably inexpensively. But nuclear certainly is very strong power.
Mr. President, I know you're running out of time here, but we haven't had a chance for you to speak to the border situation yet. So I want to give you a chance to address that, because that's always been really one of your main issues since 2016. You wanted to build a wall. The Democrats did everything they could to thwart that. You built the wall, but then Biden left a bunch of holes in it and then sold off the parts for scrap metal. And now we've had and repealed your executive orders. So I want to give you a chance to speak to that. But one piece I want to just add in as a follow-up question is, a lot of tech CEOs say, if we fix the border, can we get more H-1Bs for tech workers? So can you address that as well as what's going on at the border?
Yes, so we built hundreds of miles of wall, David, as you know, and we're very proud of it. We did it as per specification by the Border Patrol. They wanted exactly the wall that we did with the climb paddle on top, with steel, concrete, and then rebar, and all of the things that they wanted to have vision through it, clearly through it. And because I thought about concrete plank, frankly, going up 40 or 50 feet, and they didn't like that. They wanted to have vision through, and I understood that too. I sort of disagreed with it, but that's okay. We actually brought climbers in, Mount Everest climbers to climb, and we built a very hard wall to climb. It's a very effective wall. And we built hundreds of miles, and then we were going to add quite a bit at the very end. And we bought about 200 additional miles, and it was ready to be put up. Could have been put up in 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. And areas that were rough areas that were people coming in, because as you build the wall, they go in different areas, right? They go further out. It was so effective. It was so effective. Mexico gave us a lot of troops for free because of a certain negotiation that I had with them. You heard that. But it was so effective, the wall. But Biden, they didn't want to put up those slats that were going up routinely by us. That means you had gaps. You had, as an example, you had gates in certain area that we put up. We were going to put up big, powerful gates that we could open, and you could let equipment through, et cetera, if you needed it. And they got rid of everything. They sold it for 5 cents on the dollar, much of it, 5 cents on the dollar. I said, I can't believe it. And that's the first time that I said they're serious. They actually want open borders. They want an open border. Nobody could believe it. I couldn't believe it, because I never believed they wanted an open border, because who would be stupid enough to want an open border? Look what's happened with an open border. I was very proud of that. We had the safest border in the history of our country, and now we have the worst border in the history of the world. We had a safe border. I had a remain in Mexico policy, catch and release in Mexico, not in the United States. Everything was so good. But the remain in Mexico was a big deal. Not easy to get, but it was a big deal. They were in Tijuana, hundreds of thousands of people. They had to be approved to come into our country. And now you look at what's happened. We've been overrun. It's an invasion of our country by people. Many people come out of jails and prisons. They come out of mental institutions, insane asylums, and we have terrorists coming into our country at a level that we've never seen before. It's a very sad.
I never understood why the wall was so controversial. You know, every country needs to have a border, and a wall is a really good way to enforce a border. I never understood why they were so animated about stopping you from building the wall after you ran on that issue in 2016.
Remember, they said that the wall was too expensive. We can't afford to spend $1 billion to a couple $1 billion on a wall between us and Mexico. But yet they still found to do, 10 times the amount that the wall was going to cost to send over to some war. It was all a charade. It was all BS. All they wanted to do was to get these people, these newcomers, in here. By any way possible, they needed to flood America. I pray that November 5th isn't overrun with newcomers trying to vote. But that's the answer, Mr. Sachs. You're a billionaire. You already know the answer to this question.
They held you up for years with litigation. And then, like you said, they wouldn't just finish the little pieces of it, and they left big holes in it. And I think you're right. The only conclusion is they want an open border. I mean, how else do you explain it?
They want to destroy our country. You know, the fact is, it's incredible. The big mistake I made, I should have said, I will not build a wall. We do not want a wall. And that wall would have gone up in 15 minutes.
The more important point, I think, Mr. President, is we need high-skilled workers in this country.
Yes.
We need to recruit the best and brightest from the world. Every time we get somebody super intelligent from India or Europe, any country, that's
three of us
one
are
less,
immigrants, sir.
Yeah, and 3 of the 4 here are immigrants, the ones without the ties. And we can get these great people in.
No, that's really funny. Three out of the 5 billionaires on that screen are all immigrants. Think about that. They're billionaires, and all 3 out of the 5 sitting there are immigrants.
To our country, and that's a loss for our adversaries and our competitors, and it's a gain for us. But I've never heard you talk about this. Can you please promise us you will give us more ability to import the best and brightest around the world to America?
I do promise, but I happen to agree. That's why I promise. Otherwise, I wouldn't promise. Let me just tell you that it's so sad when we lose people from Harvard, MIT, from the greatest schools, and lesser schools that are phenomenal schools also. And what I wanted to do, and I would have done this, but then we had to solve the COVID problem because that came in and, you know, sort of dominated for a little while, as you perhaps know. But what I want to do and what I will do is you graduate from a college, I think you should get automatically, as part of your diploma, a green card to be able to stay in this country. And that includes junior college.
Did you hear that? Boom. If you finish college with a degree that actually makes sense, you can get a green card. That way you're assured of getting people who can contribute to society, people who can be productive members of society, who aren't just coming across the border to basically do what they've been doing to 12-year-old girls. That is huge. That is another winning message that he can give right now. That's another thing that he should talk about in Philadelphia tomorrow at his rally. That's monstrous. Bring people in who actually can produce something.
Just too. Anybody graduates from a college, you go in there for 2 years or 4 years. If you graduate or you get a doctorate degree from a college, you should be able to stay in this country. And you know more stories than I do, but I know of stories where people graduated from a top college or from a college, and they desperately wanted to stay here. They had a plan for a company, a concept, and they can't. They go back to India, they go back to China, they do the same basic company in those places, and they become multi-billionaires employing thousands and thousands of people, and it could have been done here. And a bigger example is you need a pool of people to work for your companies. You have great companies, and they have to be smart people. Not everybody can be less than smart. You need brilliant people. And we force the brilliant people, the people that graduate from college, the people that are #1 in their class from the best colleges, you have to be able to recruit these people and keep the people. It was such a big deal. Somebody graduates at the top of the class. They can't even make a deal with the company because they don't think they're going to be able to stay in the country. That is going to end on day 1.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think we all wholeheartedly agree with that. Being in the tech industry, we understand the importance of that. They're telling us that you have to go to dinner, Mr. President. So thank you so much for spending so much time with us. We really appreciate it. It's been great having this conversation with you.
I'm sorry. I have to ask, sir. I have to ask one question, sir. When you got elected in the 2016 election, you said the first thing or one of the things you wanted to do was release the JFK file. And then you...
Okay, so this is really important for those of you who've been following the entire JFK scenario and how they've buried that file forever. So Chamath is now going to bring up the JFK file.
Said later, I saw it and I wasn't really ready to do it. And then I saw a clip where you changed your mind and you said, I think we're ready to see this file. And I'm just curious.
What's in it?
What? No,
tell us right now.
What happened? Like what? Yeah.
I actually did do it. I released a lot, as you know. But when it came to the whole thing, I was hit by some people that worked for me that are great people that you would respect. And they asked me not to do it. And I'm saying, why? Tell me why. And they said, sir, I think it needs a little more time. And I released a lot, but I said, if they feel so strongly, I respect the people and would have done that again. But this time, I'm just going to do it.
RFK says the CIA killed his uncle. Do you believe that?
Well, this wasn't CIA that asked me, but I think CIA was probably behind it. But they didn't. They would have preferred that I not release the rest of it. So we did give quite a bit. It's going to be done early on. A lot of people want to see that. And whatever it may say, I won't say. I sort of have an idea. But whatever it is, it'll be very interesting for people to see. And we're going to have to learn from it.
Promise us you'll come back again, Mr.
You know,
President.
there are other things we're going to release, too. We're going to release.
Oh, really? Like what? What else do you got?
We'll talk to you about it off camera.
Aliens?
By the way, generally speaking, and there are reasons not to release certain things, obviously, but it's transparency, and I think it's important that we release that. And there are other things, too. There are other things that you know about. But people, more than anything else, they want the JFK files. We're going to release that immediately.
You have a prediction for the debate next week? What's going to happen?
Well,
I have a prediction, but let's listen to his first.
All I can say is this. I watched him with Paul Ryan, and he destroyed Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan with the water. He was chugging water at a left and right. I didn't think a human being would be able to drink so much water at one time. And he beat Paul Ryan. So I'm not underestimating him. It is what it is. We'll see what happens. But you take a look at the last one. I happen to think he's incompetent for a lot of reasons. I think he's incompetent because he has gotten the worst policies, both foreign policy and internal policy. I mean, who would not want to have a wall? Who wants to have millions of people pouring in? Who wants to have high taxes? You know, taxes are going to raise by 4 times if this guy has his plan.
Is he in cognitive decline? Do you believe he's in cognitive decline, Mr. President?
Well, I shouldn't be the one to say that, but I don't think he's doing particularly well. But I didn't think he was well 25 years ago. I thought he was not a smart person. And that was told to me by a certain member of the Kennedy family who was actually very friendly with me through a Palm Beach relationship. And I was told that very strongly. So I was never a fan of his. But I will say he beat Paul Ryan. It was still years ago, but he beat Paul Ryan pretty badly. And I assume he's going to be somebody that will be a worthy debater. Yeah, I would say. I think okay. I don't want to underestimate him.
All right.
I think that's smart.
How do you think he played that? How do you think Trump played that? He didn't give the Biden campaign any room. Didn't insult him. Didn't say anything negative to him. Well, he said he was incompetent, but he's not giving them any place to go with the debate. Not going to tell you. Just played it. Hey, you beat Paul Ryan. You know, you're formidable. It's like, you know, Tom Brady back in the Belichick and Brady days going into a game where they knew that they were going to smoke their opponent. But, you know, you want to handle it with class. So that's the interview. Thank you guys that stayed here for 2 hours and listened to that. And I'm sorry if I jumped in and out sometimes, but like I said, I felt like I had to help people understand. And I'm not insulting or being condescending, but they talked about a lot. I mean, just a ton. And this whole thing with the JFK stuff, you could see that Trump was still being reserved about that as well. When that thing hits, whatever's in it, it's going to just, that might have been one of the reasons that they also had to impeach him and get him out. And that's maybe why they're freaking out now, because they're going to find out so much. There's so many things that this guy knows that he didn't get to, that they handcuffed him, that I think that's part of the reason why they're absolutely losing it. And so let me take some comments from some of you guys. Trump is a very smart man. Don't underestimate him. Nope, not at all. Check him for an earpiece. I almost think that they're putting him in there for 7 days so that they can probably do some sort of cochlear implant so that they can talk to him, you know, right through the earpiece and give him the answers, because he probably already has the questions. I think they probably even wrote the questions. Trump just needs to be calm, forceful, say what he's got to say, and direct it back at him. You know, Wait till Biden says something about, you're a convicted felon with 34 charges and everything else. And my response to him, if I was Trump at that point, at least I was competent enough to stand trial. Despite whatever I think of how that trial went, I was there every single day. I went to a trial. You know why? Because they knew I was competent. You would have been charged except you were deemed incompetent. And you'll watch Jake Tapper and Dana Bash lose their minds. There's nothing you can respond to that. It's in writing by the special counsel. It's a fact. He was found too gone to even stand trial. If you can't stand trial, how the hell are your fingers near the nuclear button? Nobody wants to talk about that. No one in the media wants to say that. Hey, listen, if he was found too incompetent to stand trial, forget being reelected. How is he president now? Oh, that's right. Everything we're seeing we shouldn't believe, and everything we're hearing we shouldn't believe, because it's all cheap fakes and everything else, and it's manipulated, it's digitally altered. No, it's not. We know what we see. And we know if he shows up on the 27th looking like a young stud out there, we know you've been doping him up. We know you've been giving him IV drips. We know that you may even have a stand-in. There is no way. There is no possible way that the Dementia Joe we've been seeing on a day-in, day-out basis is going to be able to he couldn't do what Trump just did. He couldn't sit in front of 4 or 5 billionaires and have them ask him questions with no notes. Understand the debate. They're not allowed to have any notes. You can have a pad where you can write down stuff that you're thinking about as the other person is talking, but there's supposedly no notes. And the one thing you need to remember is Donna Brazile, who used to work for CNN, gave Hillary Clinton the questions. I wouldn't put that past them again either. Otherwise, why would you need 7 days? In the same 7-day period, Trump did this interview that you just saw. He also is going to hold a rally tomorrow where I hope you guys join me at 6:30 tomorrow night. Go ahead and make sure you click the like button. Oh, yeah, by the way.
Come on, show some love and click that like button.
Click the like button. Click the like button. So, thank you if you've stayed for 2 hours. Oops, the dog is barking now, so I'm going to have to go. That means he's done resting. He's been good the entire 2 hours. But thanks all of you guys for being here. Come here, buddy. Come on. Come on. It was fun. I hope you got some information. You got some knowledge out of this. And it was, where did he go? That it was a good interview. I haven't heard, well, we'll never hear Dementia Joe have that kind of interview where he can just talk with people at a high level without a single note. Nothing. At a high level, economic level, I mean, the guy's talking kilowatt hours and all kinds of different stuff. There's no way Dementia Joe could have that kind of response. So I'm out of here. We've been going for 2 hours. We're going to run this thing, man. We got to get people out there, let them understand what's going on with this country. I'm going to continue to do my best. I don't care if I get suppressed. At one point, I was doing nearly a million people per video, and they basically tightened the screws on me. So the only thing I need for you guys is to tell people, share the video, talk to them, get them in here, and then tomorrow night, 6:30, Philadelphia rally. Man, that's going to be rocking. Talk to you soon. Thank you for showing up.